I am what I am. I am my own special creation. So come take a look. Give me the hook or the ovation. It's my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say I am what I am.
So today's historic because Ireland has passed the gender recognition bill. We're the 4th country in the world to pass gender recognition based on self-declaration.
Yeah!
Now, just, to be clear, because we have our particular audience, because also today we had the first ever Trans Youth Forum.
Yeah!
So while we're celebrating the gender recognition bill, we're also conscious that young trans people aren't included. People who are non-binary aren't included. So what we wanted to do today was think about this as a celebration for how far we've come, and it's so incredible how far we've come. If we think about Lydia Foy, who first asked for her birth certificate in 1993, and now in 2015, we have finally got to this point. We've come a long, long way, but there's still a long way to go. So we're going to celebrate, we're going to consider this a victory, but we're also going to look at what we're going to do next. Is she okay? No. Person who's been involved in lobbying, advocating, and moving trans rights along. And I don't mean just around the legislation, although that's hugely significant, but in all the work that everybody does. And we wouldn't be here today if we didn't have the people who founded TENI, who'd been involved in the Dublin Peer Support Group, who have been activists from the very beginning, who've been advocates, or who've just been speaking their truth for decades. And I always think of Lydia Foy, who, in the context of her talking about her own experience in the late 90s, 2000s, when Ireland was a very, very different place. And now in 2015, we're here, and I think we've come a very, very long way. But as I said, we know there's still a long ways to go.
How do I follow that? Which is difficult.
No bother.
I have to say, first of all, I was actually very disappointed not to be here today, because I was sitting in Edinburgh airport watching it on my iPhone, and it was becoming quite emotional. I think at one point for me that I couldn't even watch it, and my colleague at the time was with me, was telling me to stop crying. I didn't know I was, but I actually was. And I think it's been such a long road to get to where we've been, and it's not just obviously what's gone on in the past and those who walked before us like Lydia Foy, and even Denise here, who many of you may not know, has been out there kind of ploughing that furrow for a long, long time. And I think I agree with Broden. I think, 10 years ago, our organisation, TENI, was basically a glimmer in somebody's eye in Vienna. It was like that moment where, let's have sex. But the point was that people came back from that conference and said, we're going to start an organisation to fight for our rights. As much more about healthcare and support than it was necessarily for legislation. But that changed over the last number of years. And I think what's happened today, for me personally, and I'm sure most of you out there who are over 18 and can accept or access this legislation in a self-determining way, I think it speaks volumes to me as a very proud Irish citizen that actually now my gender identity is mine. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It doesn't belong to the state. Nobody else has the decision but me. And I think we mustn't forget, as Broden mentioned earlier, that it's not going to be equality until such time as every transgender person, every non-binary person, every intersex person, and as for the day that's in it, every transvestite person can actually access this legislation if they want to. And every cisgender, non-transgender person can access it if they want to too, because it is their legislation as much as it is ours. So, while Broden takes a call, it's one of his many fans ringing in, I just want to say a few thank yous quickly before we finish, because we're not going to stay much longer, take up much of your time. So I just want to thank, first of all, a massive big thank you, and I think a round of applause has got to go to the first two people that I'm going to mention. We were here 4.5 weeks ago honouring them, and I think today actually speaks volumes to the reason we did that. So if you can please give it up for Michael Farrell and the I just want to also thank the present TENI board and staff, and all those who were served on the TENI board, and even the committee prior to that over the last 10 years.
I mean even.
Let me finish the statement and shut your mouth. Even those who were there before the present board, because it was those people who got us to where we are today. It was those people who had that glimmer, as I said earlier, to get TENI off the ground, and also to do the work that was put us in a position to do the work that we've done over the last year specifically, especially the last 6 months, to get this legislation through today. So I think again, for all those who've ever served with TENI, whether it's staff or board, I think again a round of applause. I can't obviously expect applause for TENI without all our other trans family groups, such as Transparency, Belong To, Individuality specifically, and Belong To, ITSA, the Irish Trans Students Alliance. And I think again, they all need to be applauded for the work they've done. Once again, we would not have had the kind of, I suppose, support, the amount of onslaught that politicians got over the last 6 months without our other allies in the LGBT community and civil society, such as Glen, NXF, LGBT Noise, and their rally was an amazing moment in our struggle over the last 6 months, about a moment of time, and also Amnesty International. I think again, without those people bringing their weight behind us, I think the push would not have been as big as it has been. And lastly, I think we cannot forget those TDs and senators that have been allies with us for the last, I don't know how many years, who've been there from the start when we started lobbying, from the start when Lydia was there trying to push her own case through. There's been many new allies added to that list in the last year, and even more so in the last 6 months. I think we added quite a number of them back in February when we did a big lobbying push, and there's been more and more as we've added on. But I think it's important to remember that there was probably 6 of them that have been working with us for the last number of years, specifically Senator Sapone, Senator Gillian Van Turnout, Jerry Buttimer, TD, John Lyons, TD, Angus O'Snodig, TD, and Senator Avril Power. I think again, a lot of applause must go to them for actually being there at the start and helping us break down barriers and open doors to other politicians as well. coming to the end of it slightly now. I think we cannot say all these applause without actually thanking, I suppose, the work that both Minister Kevin Humphreys and Taoiseach Giambrone over the last 6 months specifically have done. I think Minister Humphreys opened his door to us back in January and December, and I think since then he's tried his best to try and work hard on making this as progressive as he could, albeit that he's still fallen short. But I think we still need to say thank you for what they have done and what they've got to us by, or where they've got us today. I have one more thank you to make, and this for me is unbelievably important, and that is for the focus, the leadership, the just stable, I suppose, captain of the ship that we've had for the last 4 years, Mr. Broden, Giambrone. Yeah. I think that says it all. I don't think I need to say anymore. You know, so, okay, look, enjoy yourselves for the rest of the evening. We will obviously have a moment when, you know, when the legislation is signed in, we'll have a bigger, more open community celebration. And that will obviously be a big evening again as well. So
another party.
Until then, let's hope again. Okay, thanks.
Gotta get up, gotta get up, gotta get up. Gotta get up.